Very Bad Wizards is a podcast with a philosopher, my dad, and a psychologist, Dave Pizarro, having an informal discussion about issues in science and ethics. Please note that the discussion contains bad words that I'm not allowed to say, and knowing my dad, some very inappropriate jokes.
I've been accused of being a lot of things. Inarticulate ain't one of them.
The Maiden Boss has spoken! Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
Who are you? Who are you? A very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Good man. They think deep thoughts, and with no more brains than you have. Pay no attention to that man. Anybody can have a brain.
You're a very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Just a very bad wizard.
Welcome to Very Bad Wizards. I'm Tamler Summers from the University of Houston. Dave, I know the answer to this question already, but I want to get you on the public record about this. So what do you think of Ted Lasso Season 2?
Oh my God. I just finished the last episode.
Uh-huh.
I've never seen a show go from so good to so, like, I didn't even know there was that distance to travel. Like, I didn't know conceptually that such a distance existed.
In quality?
In quality. I thought season 1 was just touching, heartwarming, everything we needed in the misery that was, the COVID years. And I swear to God, it's like the writers all of a sudden were given a second season and they didn't believe it. And they're like, oh shit, all right, like, hurry up. Let's have the African young soccer player get in a relationship with a old white woman. It's just terrible.
It's like the not to be aired South Park episode where they're making fun of Family Guy, and it's just like these balls, and they could,
the manatees.
Yeah, the manatees, exactly. The manatees. We need two people to fall in love. So what do you got for us, manatees? No, here's my question about it. This is not what we're talking about, even for the opening segment, but like, I found myself thinking maybe season 1 wasn't that good, and because, but we were just in quarantine, and it hit at the right time. We felt like something heartwarming. We didn't want something like that was going to challenge us in any way. I don't know if that's true. I haven't gone back and watched. I couldn't get through season 2. I'm impressed that you were able to get through it. And also, my family couldn't get through me watching it with them either.
The last 3 episodes, we just sort of hate watched it.
Yeah.
Maybe with a little bit of hope, but you didn't see the final episode, so you don't.
I don't know what happens. Yeah, you can. Tell me.
My God, man! It's just like, I think I haven't rewatched the first season, but I think it was just tighter. There was a character development. It was a tightly written story. It was about this team and this person, and I think it would hold up. A nice ending to like they don't win. They don't win, and it was never about winning and whatever.
Yeah. It's also like every edge that was on any character is taken off, and then just the lamest heel turn for the meekest character in season 1. Here's what was extra annoying about it. Like, I don't even think it was manatees. That's actually the wrong way of describing it. It's more like, normally this would be an older guy and a younger woman, but we're like
pushing the envelope. It's weird because it actually ethically bothered me that it was his boss.
Right.
Like, I'm like, wait, am I not supposed to be bothered that this is like the woman who actually controls his career?
Yeah, he's 21 also. And she's the owner of like a black athlete, and she's doing this. What they're thinking in the writer's room is you wouldn't be saying that if it was the other way around. But of course you would.
But isn't the point that we should?
It's just so transparent.
Yes.
Like, even Jen and Eliza, and maybe especially Eliza, was just annoyed by that. It just seemed like self-congratulatory in some way. And then just...
Okay.
What?
So I have to say this, because if you're not going to finish it, all our listeners who are invested in watching it and are not going to see it, like, starting this moment on, fast forward, like, I don't know, 2 minutes. What you said about the meekest character turning weirdly sort of like aggressive.
Just being a total asshole. Yeah.
The fucking thing ends with him as essentially a Bond villain who gets hired to be the coach on the rival team. And he's now, his hair was slowly going white. And by the last scene in the episode is he's in an all black suit. His hair is totally white, cursed out Ted Lasso. And so now, like, it was literally just a buffoonish Bond villain to Ted Lasso.
And all of this because in one game, this was like the second to last episode that I could stomach, like Ted Lasso has some sort of breakdown. I know this is about mental health. Like he has some sort of breakdown, and all that this guy does is say, park the bus, which means play defensively and try to counteract. Like just the simplest possible like soccer strategy that you can have. And then now all of a sudden, like the power and the glory goes to his head, and you know, he's going to shit on and spit on people just like he was spit on and shit on. It was brutal. And you know what? Okay, last thing about Ted Lasso. The thing that really bugs me is the people who like it are saying, but now there's the inevitable backlash against Ted Lasso. It's like the opposite of a backlash because it's awful. It's like atrocious, and people still are defending it. Like that's literally the opposite of a backlash. What's happening to it?
I can't like nowadays, Rotten Tomatoes scores, like critic scores, are the most untrustworthy things. As long as you have some like woke shit, no matter how poorly written it is, it's like 98, 99. Yeah. And even the wokest of the people I know, like, have realized this. But like, fucking like Emperor is naked here. Like the audience scores and the critic scores are just diverging in ways that are, if I may say, indicative of the political culture.
Yes, and which will relate to what we're going to be talking about. All right, so let's talk about what we are going to talk about. Two things that we both, liked / loved. The first is Dave Chappelle's new controversial special, speaking of the political culture and its interaction with the world of art and entertainment. And then in the second segment, we're going to talk about Ingmar Bergman's stone cold masterpiece, Persona, that everybody should see because it's also an hour and 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. But you on purpose didn't ask me what I thought about the movie, and here you are calling it a masterpiece. And I don't want the audience to get any ideas that I am somehow revealing my opinion for segment 2.
Okay. Wow. If you don't like Persona, we're gonna have a problem.
I'm like Nate. I'm like Nate from Ted Lasso. Like, how dare you state my opinion before I state it?
Right. No. And now you're gonna join two psychologists for beer.
Chappelle.
Yes. What did you think of that?
Yeah, that might be actually something that I actually when you said liked or loved, because I watched this is the latest Chappelle Netflix special called Closer, and I watched it twice, and the second time I liked it less. So I don't love it. And we could talk about why I don't love it, but I liked it less the second time, and I'm curious about what your initial reactions were.
So I only watched it once, but I can see what you're saying, why some of the things that, when you don't know what to expect in the first time through might start to grate in the second reviewing. Because I thought it was already kind of on the edge of grating, just because he really does try to straightforwardly address his critics, especially about the trans jokes. And I thought it kind of worked pretty well and in an interesting way. It was certainly not, I didn't think it was perfect, but the way he was going about it, the way it was constructed, I really enjoyed the special. I also thought it was very funny throughout. Like, there were some great jokes. As someone who got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, as someone who is like him in that way, like, I appreciated those jokes. I expect you to unreservedly condemn the space Jew jokes.
That was one of the best ones. Because there's a callback to it.
Yeah, I know.
So here's, I think I responded more negatively to you, but I think I started in the same place. So it's built up. He's gotten a lot of flack for telling anti-trans jokes, but also sexist jokes, I guess. I didn't want to hear more of that. I wanted this to be a new thing. I honestly thought with the last two that came out at the same time, I thought that he had left it on a good note there. Like, this is how he feels. I didn't think he had to tread on that territory again. And here's what I think upon the second viewing bothered me, that I don't usually see that much of in Chappelle. And what I think made this one less funny than the other ones. He struck me as defensive in his telling of jokes in a way that he usually isn't.
Yeah.
And it made me a little bit sad because I don't think he has to be. It became a lot about how people think about Dave Chappelle. It was a little navel-gazy, and I can't feel sorry for him that much.
Right. Because he's rich and famous and really great at what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I kind of came at that from a different angle. I thought that it really bothered him. So I'm like you.
Mm-hmm.
I think we even did a segment on this where I thought the last two episodes, it was pretty funny. And I was shocked that there was a lot of negative criticism of it. Like, it seemed almost affectionate, his joke, that whole LGBTQ bus or whatever, and it struck me as like very surprising that people reacted in the way that they did. But they did react that way. And I think Dave Chappelle took it really personally, and especially the punching down comments, as he says explicitly in the special. It almost felt like, given that this is his last Netflix special of the series that he's done for them, it felt like he had to address it. And I kind of appreciated that he was going out of his way to try to do it in as straightforwardly as possible while still being or trying to be funny about it. It's never fun when comedians complain about criticism from like PC or woke quarters. Like, that's not usually fun. But it seemed like this in particular really bothered him, and he felt like he had to talk about it and work through it. Now, was it fully successful? No, but I appreciated that the element of, the way this kind of criticism typically comes from people who are white. There was some interesting things that he had to say about that. Yeah.
I was talking to Nikki about this, and because she thought it was like a lot meaner than the other ones. And I get that what you said is right. It got to him. Yeah. And I never really thought that I would hear it it got to him. Like, you could tell it got to him. And other Dave Chappelle would laugh it off or say what he needed to say, but not. But you also said something about there was heart in his jokes, like in the last ones. His sneer is a little meaner.
Yeah. I think that's true.
Yeah. I understand, I think, where he's coming from. So I think that one of the big things that's bothering Dave Chappelle is not just the backlash that he's gotten, but the backlash that he's gotten as a reflection of what he sees as a hypocrisy in America, and which he says as much explicitly in this. And what's really bothered him is what he perceives as the LGBTQ movement getting more respect and making more progress than blacks in America. And this has, sorry, I shouldn't say blacks, black people in America. The space blacks.
Space.
I think that this is, to me, Dave Chappelle has always been somebody who, in his heart of hearts, is doing the struggle through comedy. Like, it's the black struggle in America through his comedy. I get the sentiment. Like, I certainly, I think I understand. I just think that his targets for expressing this sentiment were not always the people who were deserving of the target, being the target.
Yeah, like a lot of communities, the black community is trying to wrestle with, especially, I think, trans issues right now in ways that are sometimes constructive and sometimes not. And I think what really bugs Chappelle is when these otherwise fairly privileged white, whether they're in the trans community or they're just allies of the trans community, when they go after people, that's that's like, otherwise, like Kevin Hart's doing fine. Sorry that he didn't get to host the Oscars. That was bad. I agree. Yeah. But like, I think it's that kind of thing, and especially when it happens to somebody who isn't Kevin Hart, like that really bugs him and that he thinks is kind of common theme in these kinds of debates. Yeah. And, when he says like, who's punching down really, like, I think a lot of the time he thinks it's the woke people or the marginalized communities and their allies punching down on the people who are just trying to figure it out. And maybe they say some insensitive or offensive things, but like the response to it is out of proportion. Now, we're not cultural critics. It strikes me as certainly it happens sometimes. So there's that. But then there's also, I think, what you said about him being meaner in this special. I think what got to him was that people were saying that about him in previous specials,
Yeah.
And he didn't think that was true,
Yeah.
And that's why he tells the story of the trans person who he allowed to open for him. And like in this show that I would love to see if somebody videotaped it. Like he started just interrogating her about being trans, and she was answering questions. And even though she bombed in her opening set, she was like so funny and trying to talk about it. And it seems like this is his ideal, right? Like this is how he thinks like these kinds of interactions should go, where people try to understand each other without judging and condemning like right away. And then, the kind of tragedy of what happens to this woman after she gets hounded and dragged on Twitter for supporting Dave Chappelle, she takes her own life. And he says, which I think is important, like he doesn't know why she took her own life.
Right.
He doesn't say that it was her getting dragged on Twitter that led her to do that, but he says it can't have helped. That's another time where he says, who's punching down here? She could just get viciously attacked like she did, I'm sure, because she's defended Dave Chappelle. There's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Something poisonous about it, I guess.
Yeah. The very sincere, heartwarming moments in previous specials were fewer and further between this time. And now, as I think about it, here's one thing that bothers me, because I'll defend whatever comedy if it's funny. It doesn't, I don't care. I think at times when he would let this get to him, there were a couple of times where he relied on humor that was just sort of stale, like making jokes about Adam's apples or like saying like, why do women think I hate them? Like what kind of bitch would say that?
There's also a violent tinge to it. Like at one point, like he talks about, I guess, a lesbian that came up to him in a bar and he says, I whooped the toxic masculinity out of that bit.
Right.
Which, but again, one of these interactions starts with him saying, look, it's art. You can interpret it any way you want. Although he then goes and completely undercuts that by...
Yeah.
But I think, that's intentional, I guess is what I'm saying. Like this edge that is in this special that really wasn't in some of the other specials when it comes to these issues. Like whether, I don't know, we like it or not, like I feel like there's an honesty to it.
The one thing that you can never take away from Dave Chappelle, that he crafts sets like nobody else.
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah.
Like that guy tells a story. Like he is so good at putting together an hour's worth of story that's compelling. Like, and he refers to himself as the GOAT. Another thing that I wasn't funny to me, but like I personally have him up to, like I said last time, Norm Macdonald, Dave Chappelle to me in very different ways are the best in my lifetime to do it. Yeah. And I think that I genuinely have a moral dilemma because I don't blame some people for feeling betrayed by his jokes this time around. I'm not a member of the marginalized groups that he was joking about. And I really feel like I can't speak very well to whether or not he crossed a line, but I'm never going to say I don't love Dave Chappelle. Like,
no, it's an important point. Like we're not of the marginalized community, and especially like I think the trans community. I mean, I think he separates them from even he is sensitive to that. That's a different thing right now than being gay or being a woman, and especially if you're white and both of those two things.
Yeah,
because people who have completely come to terms with, same-sex marriage. But like then there's this trans thing, which just like if you're as old as you and I are, like this is a completely new thing, and there's stuff about it that makes sense, and you feel a ton of empathy for people who have been, treated with contempt, treated as if people don't believe what they're saying, people saying that what they are isn't real, but also like not getting it, if you're a cis person like me, just not fully getting even like what the whole thing means. But I take it that's his point, is that like the way for this bridge to be built is through conversation and not just immediate judgment and attacks.
Yeah, there was one point where I thought the worst thing I thought about what he was saying, I think, was at one point when he's talking about his trans friend Daphne and saying that she was in my tribe, the tribe of comedians, where it felt like, oh, is what you're saying that we can be cool as long as you don't bring any of that pronoun shit into like our conversation? Like no, like we should treat each other as just regular humans. Just don't get all political on me.
I think I could see interpreting it that way, but because, the climax of that story is their interaction when he's on stage and she's in the front row and just asking questions and she's answering them. And like, I don't think he's saying don't bring that political shit. I think he's saying there is a way to bring the political shit that doesn't, make people enemies and make people defensive and make people, if they claim not to understand something, make people feel like that they're bad people. And I think he thinks that the trans community is too quick to the kind of judgment, not quick enough to just trying to explain to people things that they don't understand. And I know that that's exhausting, as a lot of people say, is to try to explain it.
My favorite part of that story is when they're laughing during the show and Dave Chappelle says, "Whatever, I love you, but I just don't get it." Mm-hmm. And Daphne gets mad at him and like in front of everybody says no. Like, and the way that Dave Chappelle even relates the story, he relates the anger in her voice,
right?
And that seemed like a genuine moment where he was. It was the one time in the maybe not the one time, but it was one certain time in the show where I felt like he was admitting to change himself, like admitting to being a different person because of his relationship with Daphne.
Yeah. And again, I think that's just circles back to this really got to him. And I think it didn't just get to him because he thinks it's his critics' fault, right? Like, I think it also got to him because he thinks at a conscious and maybe also unconscious level that it's also his fault. Yeah.
I often find myself wondering what the trans community, like the broader trans community thinks, and I say broader here meaning not the people who are in the press a lot or are on Twitter a lot, because we know that's not a representative of even like non-trans people, right?
I wonder that too, and of course, like I'm sure listeners will say, and they're right, like why don't you ask? Like why speculate? Why not just ask people?
Like a Twitter poll. Hey, Jesse Single, can you retweet this for me? I'm curious what the...
Last thing I actually want to say about this, I also think we're just of this like different generation. I don't know if this is true in Ithaca, but it's definitely true in Houston. The way they think and talk about this issue is just it's just a sea change. It is such a fact of life. And so many of Eliza's friends consider themselves non-binary, and at least 3 or 4 have come out as trans. It's so matter of fact. It's so much a matter of course that it's just another one of these things that it's like, how did this happen so quickly? But it seems like it has, and in a really good way. Like they don't seem really mad and defensive if Jen will throw my wife under the bus, but ask some kind of offensive or insensitive question. Like it's not like anybody gets really mad at her. It's like it's almost to the point where people have a sense of humor about it. Kind of inspiring, and it's just like maybe this is just something where like you and I just have to die out in our generation, and then everything will be fine.
Like I always remember that when we were young, there could be a whole episode of Donahue that was just about like one kid coming out as gay in his high school, you know?
Yeah, right.
And
Exactly.
I remember feeling at some point in my adult life, like it was so nice that being gay didn't have to be like the central thing that you know about somebody. Like
Yeah.
it could be just sort of an aside. And hopefully we'll get there with this stuff too, you know?
But like I said, I think we're already there. It's just
Well,
not
they're
like
already
people our age. They're already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
So it's literally like we just have to die.
Who has to die for anti-black racism?
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of his point.
Exactly.
That's exactly, I think, his point. Like somehow every one of these things just makes incredible progress over a short amount of time, except for that one. You know?
Yeah. It's not a contest until you look at the hundreds of years. Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciated that about his about the special. All right, let's go to the white people's problems. Ingmar is such an unfair description of persona, but also fair. We'll be right back.
This episode of Very Bad Wizards is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Check out betterhelp.com/VBW. You know, we're very grateful for BetterHelp's sponsorship throughout the past year or so. And so let's just take a moment to think about how life has changed in that time. In the last year and a half, we've all been through a lot of stuff that we never thought we would have been through. We could not have predicted. A lot of those have been additional stressors. So life has become full of stressors. I don't know how many times I say it in these ads, but with the semester starting up and with added responsibilities in my job and my personal life, I have certainly felt it. And you probably have as well. So even if you're not feeling down and out and depressed, or if you're not experiencing severe anxiety, if you're not experiencing the sorts of things that you think for sure would need to get you to a therapist, would be sort of worthy of therapeutic attention, doesn't matter. Sometimes it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. We could still use the help of a good therapist. And BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with a therapist. So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. These are licensed professional therapists who specialize in exactly the sorts of things that you might need. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So get some unbiased feedback about the things that are going on in your life. You'd be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. Just see if it's for you. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Very Bad Wizards listeners, because of that, get 10% off of their first month at betterhelp.com/VBW. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/VBW. Our thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode of Very Bad Wizards. Welcome back to Very Bad Wizards. This is the time of the episode where we like to take a moment and thank all of our listeners for their engagement That's the official word, engagement. We're like a Web 2.0 company. We like to up your engagement. All the ways that you contact us and talk with us, and even talk amongst yourselves about us. It's nice. It's nice to see. So if you would like to contact us directly, you can always email us at verybadwizards@gmail.com. Or you could tweet to us at verybadwizards or at Tamler and at Peas. You can follow us on Instagram, where you will get all of the coolest artwork themed on the episode.
Yes, right. And it is just like actively, like it's expressing your agency when you're on.
It's the most agentic social media of all. Wait until we get a TikTok. And if you would like to engage in discussions with like-minded listeners, or maybe non-like-minded listeners, you can go to our Reddit at reddit.com/r/verybadwizards. And last but not least, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. We always love to see your reviews and your star ratings.
5-star ratings will get us more listeners. And
I think every 5-star rating directly plants a tree in a part of the deforested third world.
Exactly. If you would like to support us in more tangible ways, there are several different ways you can do that. You can give us a one-time or a recurring donation on PayPal. You can become one of our patrons, our beloved Patreon supporters, where we have different tiers of support with lots of bonus material. You have a whole library of bonus material at this point. If you're a $2 and up per episode listener, you will get a bunch of bonus episodes that we've done over the years and that we plan on doing. Like we have a couple in the pipeline right now, and they will be coming your way soon. We also have at the $5 and up level our Brothers Karamazov series that will be directly on the Very Bad Wizards feed, so you can access that. $10 and up, you get a monthly Ask Us Anything, where we answer your questions in a video, and we post the video, which for us is like a huge issue. To have to be like that. We get so much protection for this being an only audio.
I know. I have to think about what you're wearing.
Yeah,
clearly.
I just have to wear things, period.
You can't. You have to do all your drinking before.
Well, that doesn't normally happen. I think I've been drinking for both of the videos that we've done so far. But then, and then we have merch, and you can get that. Like, once again, just giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. All those things help us so much. So thank you very much.
Why did you bring giving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts?
I don't know. I hear people do that in their support. Like it's like if you're not going to give us money, like that's the best.
I see.
Yeah, I don't know. Cut that.
We will accept the currency of 5-star reviews.
So yeah, exactly. The legal tender. So thank you very much to everybody. All joking aside. It is so meaningful to us that you support us and interact with us.
Amen.
All right, well, let's talk about Persona, which I still don't know what you think about. You've been kind of ghosting me.
That's true. I had a very, very busy day. So the spoiler is I liked it, so you don't have to be worried. Yeah.
Okay, phew. Yeah, I've been like texting him about it, and I'm just getting no response. Which is appropriate, actually, for the movie. So I appreciated that, at least. The sort of meta commentary you were engaging in.
I thought of it that way, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to give a plot summary, but it's a movie that, like, cries that like wants to be interpreted and then also resists interpretation, or at least any kind of confident interpretation.
And it's also one where a very accurate plot summary can be given that doesn't at all really tell you what this movie is or feels like or is about.
Yes. It has been called the white whale of film criticism because of all the different ways that you can interpret it. All right, so let me do a quick plot summary and we can dive in. Persona is essentially the story of you and I in Montana.
Was this your attention check?
Thought I would get more of a reaction.
I was literally like, I had checked out for a second to like organize my windows, and then I caught what you just said. Which one of us did the talking?
It's funny if you're we're in Montana with us, and if you've seen Persona, and I guess if you're me, that's the only way it's funny. But I thought it was. Anyway, the movie starts with a projector being run, and then just a crazy montage with like penis at one point, a crucifixion, a cartoon, all sorts of other things, like some of which are comic in kind of the silent movie kind of way. Some are really violent and brutal, just one on top of the other. There doesn't seem to be like a cohesiveness. If there's a cohesiveness to it, it's like the feeling of it, which is kind of stress and, you're being kind of whipped around a little bit. And, we can talk about it, try to analyze it. I guess. It resolves on a boy on some sort of cot with a sheet that's too small for him. So it's like he's sleeping on a cot and he has a sheet that's like a foot too small for him, which is like a lot of this movie. It conveys a kind of feeling. And I found that as somebody who has trouble sleeping like the boy is, and who has had like a sheet that's not long enough for me, like there's something just stressful about that. That's the feeling that you get when you're watching that. Then he can't sleep. He tries to read for a bit, and then he gets up and there's a screen which he touches with his hand, and then a blurry image of a woman takes shape. And that's like the prologue, and also a very brief epilogue kind of comes back to it. So the movie is framed by this boy. But then it turns into a more conventional story of two just impossibly beautiful women. Like just absolutely, they're played by Liv Ullmann and Bibi Andersson, both of whom give just amazing performances. I think Bibi Andersson as Nurse Alma it's like a Mount Rushmore performance. It's one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. It's a story of an actress named Elisabet Vogler, and a nurse named Alma. Elisabet was on stage performing the play Electra, which is incidentally the story of a girl who kills her mother. Perhaps relevantly, perhaps not. So she's performing this play, and then all of a sudden she stops speaking. And then the next day, she stops speaking entirely. And that's why she's in the hospital. She just won't speak. The very Scandinavian doctor who's in charge of her assigns Alma to take care of her, and eventually has them both go to a cottage on an island so that Elisabet can recover. Since Elisabet doesn't speak, Alma has to do all the talking, and she becomes kind of a chatty Cathy. And, it's kind of nice at first. She has a disarming quality, but, soon she starts confessing things, really deep things about herself, including a story about an orgy with two boys. I say boys, they seem like they might be literal boys, but that gave her the best sex she ever had. Soon she feels betrayed by Elisabet, like that was taking advantage of her vulnerability to study her, maybe for a future role. We don't know, but there's a letter that sort of reveals that Elisabet is studying her. That leads to a very horrifying scene, and there's horror elements to this movie. But just the scene with the broken glass on the cobblestone patio is it's really kind of tough to watch.
Right.
That turns into a fight, some blood sucking, a possible dreamlike vicarious sex with Elisabet's husband. In the middle of the movie, and this is after the glass scene, the film starts to break down, and you get clips from the montage in the beginning. Like, it's just like the film just starts to kind of burn up. literally, like the actual film as it's presented to us.
Like on a projector, for those who
on the
don't know how films used to be shown.
Yes, it does kind of make you nostalgic for film, actual film. And then it kind of resets again as their relationship resets a little bit. The climax of the movie is Alma telling Elisabet how she feels about her unwanted son in a speech that is repeated twice, once with a camera on Elisabet and once with it on Alma. Then their faces merge in, one of the most famous shots in film history. I'm sure almost every listener has seen it, at some point. And then again, it ends with that same kind of framing device, the boy touching the screen, the projector this time turning off, and then that's the end of the movie. The last thing I want to say about it is from 1966 is when it's released. A lot of the images that we get, the Buddhist monk in Vietnam lighting himself on fire, as well as the kind of the woman's role starting to get redefined. It has that very, like, we're on the border of like the 50s and everything's good and good defeated evil. That's over now. And the woman bakes the apple pie. Like, that's kind of over now. And now things are in flux. They're transitioning. We're in this space where it doesn't seem like anybody knows, what's going on.
Right. Okay. So can we start sort of at the beginning? Because I literally went into this knowing maybe that famous shot, actually two famous shots, like the profile shots and the merged shot, like not even vaguely knowing what the plot was about. And the opening scene, I was like, what kind of experimental bullshit is Tamler making me watch? Like, I was like, if this is the whole film, I feel like the guy in Clockwork Orange who's going to have his eyes held open so that I can watch spiders and dicks, like film projectors burning.
Yeah, and like a goat maybe being
like a headless, like bleeding head of a sheep or a goat or something.
Sheep,
like that.
yeah.
Yes, there's a moment.
I knew, and the funny thing is, I knew you would have that reaction too. But
I was like, this is some pretentious shit. Even for a pretentious filmmaker, this is pretentious.
Yeah, but then it kind of resolves itself.
Yep. Then it goes
after
zoop
that.
and turns into like a kind of a normal movie, almost a Hitchcockian opening scene. Nurse comes in, like, I don't know, something about the way it's shot. Doctor, the very, how to describe her, the very
Scandinavian
doctor, telling the nurse that she's going to be in charge of this patient. Like it felt like a normal, like it might be a thriller almost.
With some, like a psychological thriller with some horror elements and some, but like a deep dive into the psychology of two women, one who's been assigned to care for the other. But then it doesn't stay that way, right?
No, it starts to unravel and become dreamlike. Things get dreamy, but like back and forth dreamy. Sometimes normal scenes, sometimes, and then sometimes these dreamy, surreal scenes. I really like the turn from that you were describing from caretaker who, you're dealing with somebody who's selectively mute. There's nothing organically wrong with her vocal cords or her brain. She can talk. She knows, like Alma, the nurse, knows Elisabet can talk. And she moves sort of from normal caretaker saying like, okay, like, like what a caretaker would do, describing what they're going to do, talking, making sure, like reading her correspondence, to being more of a chatty Cathy. It's just them two in this house and on this island. Like you don't really see other people around. And so she goes from like that nervous chatter that you might, like when the other person isn't talking and you feel like you need to be the one to make all the conversation. Like I felt that pressure, that like this sort of anxiety that you feel when you realize that the other person isn't contributing, and so you keep talking, and then like a friendship developed, and this is all one way. The performance of Elisabet is great too, like her facial expressions. It's not like she's not giving anything; she's giving something, and like you buy that a friendship is developing between these two women, and that moment of intimacy, that culmination of the story of, she starts off by saying Nurse Alma starts off sort of testing the waters of intimacy by telling her about this affair that she had for 5 years with a married man, but like she didn't take him seriously. That wasn't real to him, right? And then the culmination of this moment of intimacy where she speaks about this moment, this pretty awesome moment. I was a little distracted, man.
Well, because of the way it's shot, like it's erotic. Like if you didn't hear what she was saying, it's already just erotic.
Right.
Just the shot.
They're both like intertwined in this. And so she tells this story, which, you know, the orgy is whatever is kind of the intimate part. The story is there was just another girl who came to sunbathe naked on the beach. So she joined her, and then these boys started watching and they had sex. But the real revelation there is that she got pregnant and chose to abort. Right. Imagine feeling comfortable enough with somebody who hasn't said a goddamn word to you, and you're revealing that much about yourself.
Well, I think there's two really important things, right? So Alma, at the beginning of the movie, she just gives like a speech to the camera about how her life is so planned out. You know, she's marrying this person that she's engaged to. They'll have 2 kids, which she'll raise, and she'll work her job, which she loves. And she likes the security of having things planned out. And you know, there's a tiny hint of uncertainty, but then when she tells this story, you get the sense that, wait a minute, is this enough for her? Because you get the sense that episode on the beach is like maybe the most important thing that's ever happened to her. The deepest she's felt, like the most like real powerful feeling that she has. Just that happened and how meaningful is one thing, and then of course that she got the abortion is another. Just you get the sense she hasn't told anybody besides this woman.
Right. And when she says it, like you alluded to, she says it was never as good before and it's never been as good since. Like that was peak for her. As you say, is she has these clearly she has career ambitions, but she also realizes that, you know, her husband to be is studying to be a medical doctor. And so once that happens, she won't be a nurse, but she speaks wistfully about these nurses who were so devoted to being nurses that they're now just old retired nurses. And maybe.
Let's talk, maybe back up a little bit to Elisabet's decision just not to speak all of a sudden. Because the doctor gives a speech about that. I want
to read the full thing, or if you have it up. I have it up.
Go for it.
Yeah. So the doctor knows that she's a selective mute. She obviously knows she's an actor and that this happened. And she seems to have a theory as to what's going on. And she just brings Elisabet, the mute actress, in and says, "I understand, all right? The hopeless dream of being, not seeming, but being. At every waking moment, alert. The gulf between what you are with others and what you are alone. The vertigo and the constant hunger to be exposed, to be seen through, perhaps even wiped out. Every infection and every gesture a lie, every smile a grimace. Suicide? No, too vulgar. But you can refuse to move, refuse to talk so that you don't have to lie. You can shut yourself in. Then you needn't play any parts or make wrong gestures. Or so you thought. But reality is diabolical. Your hiding place isn't watertight. Life trickles in from the outside, and you're forced to react. No one asks if it is true or false, if you're genuine or just a sham. Such things matter only in the theater, and hardly there either. I understand why you don't speak, why you don't move, why you've created a part for yourself out of apathy. I understand. I admire. You should go on with this part until it is played out, until it loses interest for you. Then you can leave it, just as you've left your other parts one by one."
Yeah. It's so interesting because on the one hand, it seems like a plausible diagnosis, and also like obviously just, you know, so relevant to these ideas of, you know, an essential self versus, like we were talking about this with the Borges story, right? Like the public and the private self. But then also just, it's just another role though, you know? Like, play it out. That's great. Like, so there's also something like so deflating about it. I know you think that this is some heroic cry for truth in a world of lies, but actually this is just another lie. But it's, you know, it might be kind of a cool lie, so go for it. But, you know, at a certain point, you're going to get bored with it, and that's when you move on with your life.
It's I almost felt like Bergman was just putting it out there. What he was,
Yeah,
this,
right.
It's not the whole of the movie, but this is the heart of the movie. And and Bergman is constantly reminding you that this is a movie.
Yeah,
like his popping out with a film projector and his insertion of random tidbits of films from probably previous films. Like this is all.
And even like a clip of him and the cinematographer Sven Nykvist just shooting the actual movie.
Yeah.
Right. So this is also a movie about art. I think what's so seamless about it, but the story is also about art and artifice. He's making a movie. We can talk about just the parasitic effects of if you make a movie. Now, anybody you interact with thinks, oh, am I going to be the subject for your next movie? Or are you just talking with me, for this end of trying to create a great work of art? But I think one of the things he's saying, and you see this in the speech, is that that's also just life.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing about this speech that you couldn't say to somebody who's not an actor.
Yep.
What the doctor is suggesting is there's no escape from the lies that we present to the public. Even by just refusing to engage and not to play the game, you are still playing the game.
Yeah.
And that's just being a human being.
Yeah. And I think it was the Borges episode when we were talking about this. I think I said something like, it turns out that actors might be just the most genuine ones because they know they're playing the roles, and we're not aware that we're playing the roles. But you said something about the fear that your stories might be taken by that person to be used in a script or as motivation for a character. Yeah. And here the big tempting thing that Bergman is sort of like hanging over your head is that these are the same person. Which we could talk about. But it is interesting in the context of trying to interpret this as a movie where this is one person with these jarred identities, that she might feel used by the actress for taking her own life stories, so that she feels betrayed by the letter. She's like, here, I told you this stuff in confidence, and you're probably just going to use it. That's just like... Just being herself,
actress self.
Yeah. You're also betraying your true identity, which is me right here. Like I have these real lived experiences. It's more than just a film.
That's interesting, right? Because I was thinking, as you said, there are many people who interpret this as really the story of one woman, not two women. Although I think you can make a case for either of them, which is fascinating. If I was going to make it about one woman, I would probably make it about Alma. I would think just because we get the movie more from her perspective and she actually talks than Elisabet's. But we find out a lot about Elisabet too through the outside letters and that final speech. Yeah. So you could definitely make the case also that it's only about Elisabet. But I was thinking that what you lose if you see it that way is this dynamic of the kind of parasitic nature of just any friendship or relationship, especially if one of them is a kind of artist and then the other one is always suspicious that they're being used for the purposes of art. But you're suggesting that actually stays even within, if it's just one person.
Right.
That's.
You've used yourself as a means to an end, where of all of the things you would treat yourself as the end in itself. And
right. I always thought that was just masturbating. But apparently you can do it in this way.
You could do it in a more emotional way. By the way, let's just preempt anybody who's going to email us and tell us that persona is a singular. I think we know.
Yes. Yes. And it also means mask. Yeah. A reference I read to the Jungian idea that persona, a kind of mask designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. I mean, that's what this movie is about, right? Yeah. Make a definite impression on others, conceal the true nature of who you are. Right. The question is whether there's anything underneath the mask, I guess. Today's episode is brought to you once again by Chess.com. Chess.com is the only sponsor that I have personally been using for almost 20 years. I absolutely love it. You can play your family, your friends. You can play strangers. I'm in a couple games with listeners who heard me do the previous spot right now. Everyone's playing chess these days, especially on chess.com, where the number of players has grown 5 times since 2020. Pandemic will do that, I guess. Chess.com is free and easy to play. There's no other chess website that's even close to it. And unlike so many other games that Pizarro tries to get me addicted to, you can spend hours playing chess and you won't hate yourself afterwards. Chess.com features so many ways to improve your chess game. And look, if you want to play me, you got to bump up your rating. Otherwise, my rating plummets way too far if you beat me. There are lessons for every level from beginner to expert. Chess.com features thousands and thousands of fun puzzles to sharpen your skills. Like I said last time, there's nothing better than a few chess puzzles when you're on the can. It keeps you regular. And this is a great feature. After every game, you can have the computer analyze your every move, your mistakes, your blunders, your inspired strokes of genius. Chess.com is free if you want to play and just have access to a few features. I always hovered around the gold and platinum levels, very reasonably priced to get some awesome extra features. And now they were just nice enough to bump me up to a diamond membership, which gets me unlimited access to all of the chess.com features. Unlimited puzzles, lessons, game analysis, and more. You can play on all your devices and go there and find out which of your friends is already on chess.com. It's a great way to meet up with people you haven't been in contact with in a while. And if you challenge me, I might even play you one of these days. So head over to chess.com/verybad to start playing. Let them know you heard about chess.com from us by going to chess.com/verybad. No wizards, just very bad. Start playing your friends and learning chess today. Chess.com/verybad. Thank you to chess.com for sponsoring this episode.
It is interesting. Like, I have to give this movie credit because it could have been a massively terrible movie. Like, the Bergman flirting with the fact that it could be interpreted as 2 women, but not making it, like, making there be some things that make it seem impossible that it's 2 women, and then some things make it seem it's impossible that it's 1 woman.
Right.
So any interpretation that you choose to take comes with like an interpretive trade-off. So so there is no real answer. You don't even get the sense that he cares that there is a real answer, because what it's exploring is whatever this relationship is.
It's giving you like raw materials, like really rich raw materials, and allowing you to create what you create with it. So it's not like you can just make anything of it, but it's also not like you can just make one thing of it. Because as you say, there are interpretive trade-offs, both plot mechanic wise and also just thematically. I think there are interpretive trade-offs. So if you see it as 2 people, you lose this idea that there are this conflict within all of us,
right,
of the public and the private, and this desperate wish to be authentic and real and the actual you instead of the you that you perform for others, you know, whether on stage or just as a person interacting with anybody. So you lose that element of it at least a little bit if you think of it as 2 people. But then if you think of it as 1 person, you lose the relationship dynamic, which is really, you know, I wouldn't want to lose either. Even if I do think maybe the most plausible interpretation is 1 person. But then I was thinking, like, we don't have to choose either, right? This can be like a Schrodinger's cat kind of deal where it's all of those things. Well, and that's depending on how we're observing it.
Right. Yeah. Because like, who is to say that now I sound like a real pretentious film person, but who said that there has to be a rule that there is one answer to this? Like, that's, you know, when there is a quote, I think I forgot to write down who said it, but I'm pretty sure it has to be Alma. What am I talking about? It wasn't a man and it wasn't the Scandinavian.
Unless it's no stop, like
that's which we need to talk about. But you know, in one of her ramblings, she says, is it possible to be one and the same person at the very same time? I mean, someone else, which is already just such an ambiguous statement where it's like,
right. Was she like, I mean, we're going to get into these scenes, I assume, in more detail, but like she literally says, I could, like, we look alike. I could become you if I really tried.
I could turn into you. And she says, your soul, but your soul would be too big.
Yeah. right? Which is like, what does that mean?
I don't know. Because part of the dynamic is she's starstruck by the actress, like
Again, something that you lose. Like
Yeah.
those opening scenes, if you think of them as one person, of her just kind of chatting on sort of nervously, but also unselfconsciously. Like she's just, there's something kind of beautiful about it. If she is this starstruck nurse with all the good intentions in the world, just trying to help this person while at the same time, like, oh, cool, I get to talk to Elisabet Vogler, like the famous actress, and I respect art and I respect the theater. And it's just like, that's so awesome. And to see that just slowly become something really vulnerable and then something really, it's like it wrecks her to some degree, or it makes her hard. You know, there's a kind of softness to her at the beginning and a hardness to Elisabet, but certainly she
explicitly
becomes hard.
called. She's explicitly, says that Elisabet has this hard look.
Yes, right. Yeah. And the scene with the husband, this crazy scene with the husband who's blind, and I suppose he just throws in it's blind in case you want to think that this is actually two women at the same time. Like, I find that very hard to believe, but at one point, like Alma, who's having sex with the husband, but in the guise of Elisabet, says, "I love your tenderness." And she says it looking directly at Elisabet, like, "You're too hard to even understand this. You're too chilly and cold and removed and apathetic. And I still have this softness, and I appreciate this softness in another." And it's almost like an aggressive thing at that point.
Well, it reminds me, she's one way in which she's trying to maintain her softness. She goes to bed, turns off the light, almost immediately turns on the light to put on face cream.
Right.
Like to maintain her supple softness.
Exactly. I didn't notice that. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. She's trying like desperately. Like she wakes up like in that kind of almost panic. And then starts putting on.
Very weird.
Yes.
I have like the miniest of theories that's half-assed. I don't know if okay.
No, let's do it. Why not?
Okay. Well, should we talk first about that scene where she finally talks because she threatens to throw boiling water?
Sure.
Yeah. What I got from it was a callback to the Scandinavian doctor. It's funny because in the one that I read, it said life trickles in from the outside, but on the on-screen, it said life oozes in on all sides.
Oh, I like that better.
Yeah. It struck me as that moment where this one is real life. You can play as much as you want, but as soon as real life becomes real, you're going to snap right out of it. Like,
you're going to talk.
Yeah, you're going to talk. You can't, like, you can try, like, play this role until you can't play it, but just know life is going to, like, when boiling water is about to be thrown, you're going to say no.
Even for a beautiful white woman, like, life will eventually find you. Now I'm trying to remember the order. So it's right after she reads the letter, the kind of betrayal letter, really, where the letter itself is pretty interesting. And also just like this movie just conveys feeling in every shot. But as she's reading the letter, there's this drip, 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 which is in itself just kind of like, it puts you a little bit on edge. And then she reads her not saying anything too nasty about Alma, but it's patronizing. It's like, oh, she seems smitten with me in a charming way. And then also just revealing what she told her, which was some orgy, but diminishing it, minimizing it. Some orgy she had with these two boys.
Right, because actresses have orgies all the time, you know? Like, isn't that cute? Exactly. She told me her little orgy story.
Yeah. And then what's interesting about, like, I think this is, so then it goes, I think, to the glass scene. Right?
Yes, I think so. Because this is where the resentment has built.
Yes, but it hasn't been vocalized yet. Yeah. That's one of the most suspenseful and just tense scenes and even though I've seen this now a few times, like I didn't remember exactly when she steps on it. Yeah. And it's just so stressful, this shard of broken glass just out there. And so she walks in, she walks out. And she doesn't step on it. And then Alma leaves, and then she walks in and steps on it. when she steps on it, like I just felt this, like my legs, just a shiver run up my legs.
Yeah.
And then the film breaks down and with the montages, and it's like it has to reconstruct itself. It gets blurry at first, like that opening image. Now Alma, Elisabet is blurry, and then she just kind of snaps into focus.
So the blurry is just like another way of just reminding us, oh, this is a movie. Remember, this is a movie. Like the focus puller fucked up on this one. Like,
and it's also a callback to the blurry image that you get in the opening of the boy touching the screen.
So
but yes, it's also very much about like, this is a movie. And because it's not just blurry, it then immediately pops into focus.
Yeah, immediately.
Like so abruptly. And they've reset a little bit. But now that they've reset, Alma is like self-conscious in a way that she hadn't been before.
Right.
Like she's yelling at Elisabet for this betrayal, but she's using words that she says she knows how phony she sounds. You know, it's like all of a sudden she's been granted this new, she now is aware of the artifice of what she was doing in a way that, or now she's forced to engage in artifice that she wasn't engaging with before. And that's a tragedy right there, is that now all of a sudden this charming and beautiful innocence that she has is lost.
Yeah, she went from bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to like bitter.
And now she has to confront now the same thing that Elisabet was confronting before, which is, wait, is this all bullshit? You know, like, is everything I'm doing just kind of bullshit? And Elisabet starts laughing, you know, or smiling and silently laughing. And she says, you think this is funny, you're laughing, but it's not that simple for me, because she's just earlier in this process, you know?
Yeah.
And then the next scene, she goes and she's like, is it really that important not to lie, to always be telling the truth? Why not let yourself be silly and dishonest? And it's like, you get the sense that this is like a stage that Elisabet went through, you know, a long time before. She's past this. And now she's brought through her actions to she's brought Alma to this point.
Yeah.
And that's where she starts saying how betrayed she was, and then Elisabet slaps her.
Yeah.
And then chases her, and she runs into the house and takes this boiling oil and threatens to throw it in her face. And that's when she talks. Really, the only time she talks, I guess she says nothing at one point. But that's it.
Well, there's a time where she whispers, could be in Alma's imagination. She says, "You should go to sleep, or you'll fall asleep at the table."
Right, but that's thought that was a dream.
Yeah,
right? Because
she says, "Did you talk to me last night?" And she goes, "No."
Yeah, and she looks very genuine about it. She doesn't look like she's playing.
Yeah, but definitely it was her voice. So
yes, that's true.
Whatever.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and she might not even exist.
Right.
So. Like, that's as good at speaking as anything.
That's better than me. Okay, so this is the most half-baked, it's not even a theory about the movie, it's a theory about this specific part of the movie, which is the boy who sandwiches this movie, who is sort of like touching the projection of the face of Vogler.
Or one of them.
Or one
it's
of
not
them.
totally
Yeah,
clear.
If we didn't mention it, these women were picked because they look alike. Like they, you know.
Yeah, and that they were friends too.
Yeah, right. It seems to me that boy is trapped in a movie. That boy is a character from one of the roles that she played. And like, he just doesn't really exist. He's like yearning to be outside of the movie, to be like with his mom.
Yeah.
It feels like it's on the back of a projection screen, you know? Like if you were to walk right up to a screen, it feels like he's in that room, almost like a weird 2001 room where he's kept, you know?
So like what you said about like, he's been part of a role that she played.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's true regardless of whether she literally part of, like, she was in a play and, like, in the play she had a child. In the origin story of how he came to be, it was, and this is in that final speech, you know, that kind of just gut-wrenching, just, this is who you are speech that Alma gives Elisabet. The origin story of this boy, as it's being presented, is that she was at a party, and it was kind of a glamorous party, and people were talking about probably how great she was as an actress and joking around and saying, the one thing you aren't is a mother. That's one role that you really can't be. And it like, even though it was said in jest, like, it kind of bothered her, and so she it kind of bugged her. She's like, I could be a mother. And so she then literally has a child to prove that person wrong, that she can inhabit that role, but she can't. She cannot be a mother. She hates the baby from like the moment like she notices that it's in her body to like the present, essentially, like that she just doesn't have that in her. And so I think like you can interpret what you're saying literally as like almost like in a surreal way, like he's come to exist because of like she happened to act in this play, or just it still applies as just the way it's described, that description of it, which is it was a role for her to be a mother, right. And it's a role she just happened not to be suited for.
The boy was left to be raised by relatives or something like that.
But but the boy desperately loved her. This is what's so sad about the whole thing. He has like this deep, unfathomable love for his mother, but their interactions are awkward, like not like what you would want in a play. Like it's not authentic. It's like her being a mother is not authentic. It's not real. And so like that's what's so heartbreaking about that. And and I see that boy one way or another as the son, and whether he exists in one sense or doesn't exist, he is trying to reach her, but there's this screen in between.
It's a very liminal, like he's in a very liminal space, like he's between the worlds somehow.
Between the real world of being a son and having a mother, and
it has this for a super duper concrete interpretation. She is in a movie. She's currently filming this movie. In the movie, she has a son. It's in the middle of filming the movie that she decides to stop talking, but the cameras keep rolling. They're just rolling. It's still a movie, and the times that you get, she's playing this role now as a selectively mute actor, but they keep rolling. The doctor tells her the times life is going to ooze in. You can play this role, but real life will step in. And when she steps on the glass, the movie has to like cut. When she's about to be thrown hot water or oil or whatever it is into her face, she breaks character.
Yeah. Right. And she breaks character is a great way of describing it. Like and then she immediately gets back into character. It's not like, okay, like in another movie, now she would start talking.
Right.
And, it would just
in
like
a lesser
waterfall
film.
would come. But no, she just like, that was like a little slip up for her. She really is, as Alma says about her at the very beginning of the movie, she's mentally strong. Yeah. It's interesting that your interpretation sort of assumes that she's the central character, because I think like you could definitely also run something where she is a projection of Alma's, and maybe the projection of somebody also in a liminal space between I don't know who I'm going to be yet and this very well-defined person that she imagines herself to be but isn't quite there yet. So like she hasn't had a kid yet. She had an abortion of the one kid that she might have had, and she's still a nurse. She clearly likes being a nurse and doesn't want to give that up. And as you said, admires the people who they're not afraid of their role or their mask. They embrace it with like everything. And she clearly seems to think that that's something that's really meaningful. It gives your life meaning. And Elisabet is this sort of future projection of herself. Like, this is what could happen if I go down this road. I have a child that I don't want. And the child is abandoned and desperate and comes into this world unloved. That's where like the absence of God, the absence of anybody that cares about you. It's one thing when it's, the absence of a loving God. It's another thing where it's the absence of just anybody that really loves you and wants you. And she is, and this is her trying to work through that. Like, I think you could also do something along those lines, where Elisabet is either not real or just a possible future self almost, even if she's not going to be an actress, just somebody who decided that this role that I'm playing as the loving wife and mother, I just can't, I'm not suited for that role. This is nagging in Alma. This is like a fear that is nagging her from the very beginning, even when she's like really confident about like her life and her and her role.
Think about it this way. Like, I mean, I agree that your interpretation works just as well. On the one hand, like I was reading it as wistful Elisabet thinking, if only I'd gotten that abortion and stuck to my career, I would still be happy. I'd still have that bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, or in the way that you describe it. Or it could be like, these are two temporal instances of the same woman who are encountering each other,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it can't be exactly, because you don't get the sense that Alma is going to quit nursing and become an actress. Yeah. But they are spiritually the same. Yeah.
I also admit that I treated Elisabet as the main, the quote unquote main. I mean, if they're both the same person, then the question makes less sense. But because Alma's name is Alma, which is soul, and so I kind of viewed it as, well, she internalized, she stopped talking. The thing that kept talking was the thing inside her. That thing, her internal monologue is.
And yet we know so much more about Alma because she's the confessor, and she's it's such a great performance because the way she's able to inhabit both the sort of softness and tenderness and charming vulnerability and openness in the beginning, and then that transition to betrayal, and then just a real hardness.
Talk about Mulholland Drive.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, obviously Mulholland Drive is so influenced by this, and Vertigo, essentially get you Mulholland Drive. Lynch was very influenced by some of these filmmakers, Tarkovsky too, and I've been seeing a lot of like European cinema from this period, and like it's not. I would never say my respect for David Lynch has diminished, because it's like that's not possible. He's the man, but like he's like I didn't realize to what extent he really is influenced by like just shots, themes, everything by those directors. Bertolucci too, The Conformist. There's so much Lynchian stuff in that.
Yeah, the minute I started watching this, I was like, is this just Lynch in a different language?
Just trying to sneak a Lynch by you.
Exactly. By the way, one of my first notes, actually right after the title of my note, which is Persona, what the fuck, a dick?
I know. But I think it's also like, I think that he knows that you're thinking that.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is him making fun of himself and his art, because it does kind of seem like almost like a German expressionist, like sprockets kind of thing at the beginning. Even though I think it's really cool and we could have a fruitful analysis of like shot by shot of it, like it also, like I think it's like aware of this. But then also I think it's the flood of images is like the flood of confusion that a boy might feel of just being thrust into the world. Just all these things going on around him that he can't process and he can't figure, like, there's cartoons and that's funny, but then there's
dick spiders and cartoons, like my childhood.
And it's so good that way. It's like, the other side of him, I think when you think of Bergman, you think of like the big questions, like existential questions of being in an indifferent universe in this kind of abyss. That's in this too.
Yeah.
But what's so kind of awesome about it is it's in the guise of an unwanted child, like a child that nobody wanted to exist, and the one person that he desperately needs is the person that hates him the most. The one person that he's reaching out for is someone that just wishes he didn't exist.
So sad.
Like that's
so sad. He's a fake boy from a like art house movie from the 60s, and I still feel so bad for him.
Because Bergman is just so good at like getting emotions out of it.
Yeah.
Like almost better than anybody I can think of, as I am just feeling this movie. Even when I don't understand it, I'm feeling it.
Yeah. I guess my point is a different one. Even if you don't want to feel it, looking at it is amazing. Like it's this, I love this period of black and white filmmaking when like the film quality was good.
Can we talk about the scene? So we've referred to the details of it, but the scene where she gives the speech, she gives this kind of devastating speech to Elisabet about just how she may be playing out this role, but people are suffering, including this boy, and there's earlier connections to like a boy in the Holocaust that's being like marched out by the Germans, and it's so brutal, right? And it's being taken that way. She is being wrecked by this story, Elisabet. She says, you hoped the baby would be dead. You wanted a dead baby. And when you saw it, and when, it was presented to you, you said, can't you just die? Like she gives that speech, it's repeated. Then all of a sudden, like it cuts. There's one of these like kind of almost awkward edits, like definitely on purpose. Bergman knows what he's doing. And then all of a sudden, Alma is in a nurse's costume, right? She's become a nurse again. And she goes up to Elisabet and says, I've learned quite a lot. Almost like a reversal now. Like you said you were studying me. I was actually studying you. And then she does this thing with her hands, like just comes up to her face and like grabs something like that I, at least this time around, interpreted as like, I'm grabbing your soul now, And then she says, I'll never be like you, which is echoing what she had said at the end of that speech. I am Alma. I'm not Elisabet Vogler. I'm soft. I can still love people. But now she says, let's see how long I can hold out. I'll never be like you. I'll change all the time. I can act. And she says, let's see. And then she says, you do what you want. You'll never get to me. And then she like kind of breaks down and kind of starts putting her hands in her head, but then immediately looks up, like she's slamming her hands on the table, but then she immediately looks up and she looks hard and severe as if it's like, okay, that was an act. You see, I've learned from you and you can't break me. But then she breaks down for real. So she does that, and it's like this triumphant moment of like, I have become hard like you, at the cost maybe of my own like soul, but I've defeated you. But then she breaks down for real. And because I was just watching this before, like what she says starts to not make any sense. Yes is the answer. I don't know. Like what's winning? Us, we, me, I. And then she says, then disgust, nausea. And this is right when then she slices. I guess I've seen this described different ways, but the way I saw it, she slices open her own arm, and then Elisabet sucks the blood out of her arm. And then Alma just starts slapping her in a very Hitchcockian scene. Just the way she's slapping her. So I thought that was really interesting. First, just her quick change into the nurse's costume, but then this kind of like posturing, like I've learned from you. I can beat this. I will run away from my true self, and I'll do it successfully. And I can act now, and I can be inauthentic just like you can. But then, no, she can't. And now she's starting to feel that nausea and disgust. This is like very Sartrean at this point. So I get that part. The slicing of the arm and the sucking the blood, aside from the vampire like kind of illusions, but I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't get it.
I don't either. I saw it and I was like, all right, this is some weird shit. Like at this point, my interpretive engines were just like, well, I don't know that I can incorporate this one. like I guess take, some sort of succubus soul sucking, just like the grabbing.
Yeah.
But
then why the slapping?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just in terms of the like what actually happens, was it your sense that she cut her own wrist or her own arm, like forearm?
I'm pretty sure it's Alma who cuts her own arm and then
Elisabet sucking.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely Elisabet sucking the blood of what appears to not be her own arm. Yeah.
But then the slap, and then there's just like no blood. Like I don't.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's just, and then all of a sudden, Elisabet is packing up and she's gone, and then Alma's packing up and she's gone, but they're not together anymore.
Yeah.
And Alma gets on a bus, and who the fuck knows at that point? And then it goes back to the boy.
And then it ends on the boy, and it ends with the film projector ending again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting the way this movie could really be about either one of them, or both of them.
We also get, by the way, those tender shots of them, like those wistful shots of them embracing each other.
Yeah, and when she's talking, when they're on the beach and they're in their hats.
Yeah.
And like this is in the good times of their relationship. And then I just think Alma, like B.B. Anderson, is just so good in it.
She's
like
great.
it's remarkable, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work without like really top tier performances from either of them.
Seriously, film is one error away from being a bad film, but it comes together. It comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The shooting of it, and I think it's a celebration of that too.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the best shot films by Sven Nykvist, who's, one of the great cinematographers. And it shows that. It's like, it makes you conscious of the editing too.
Yeah.
It makes, and then the acting, like so many close-ups, so many, we haven't even talked about like how sometimes the actresses will look like they're talking to us. At one point, Elisabet just starts, the camera's on her, and then she has a camera, and then she turns the camera on us.
So
and
good.
It's like
Take
all of
a
a sudden
picture of
we're
us,
getting like, oh wait, this is about me now.
It flirts with meta so much.
Yeah, but not in an annoying way.
No.
And not in a way that detracts from the emotion of it. All right, anything else to say about this?
I don't think so, but it's like if you're like me and not get past the first, few Goddard opening shots. It's great. And I love that. What I love about this movie too is that it never tempts you too much into having to solve a mystery. Yeah, like it could have done that. It could have been a little bit like Cachet tempts us, and we had an obviously long conversation about whether or not there needs to be Mulholland Drive, same thing. This gives you a mystery, but it's an emotional one. It just, the details matter a little less about like, you're not like, you're not dissatisfied because there is no answer as to whether it's two women or one.
If anything, you get dissatisfied if you try to come up with too definitive an interpretation. Yeah. And I think that's why I think the first time you watch it, like there's no reason for you not to take it at face value that these are just two women, a nurse and a patient, one of whom is an actress that stopped talking. And I think that's a totally valid interpretation. Also, it's just the weirdness that you have to explain is, number one, the husband scene. But you could think of that as a dream. And then number two, that their faces actually start to merge. But then you could think of that like, this is what happens when two people who have to spend a lot of time in isolation. This is why it's ultimately just about you and I in Montana. Like,
remember when those two young boys came like across the...
Oh my God. And then our sex that night.
Never been the same since. All right.
All right. On that note, join us next time on Very Bad Wizard.
The great and honest has spoken. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Who are you? Who are you? A very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Good man. They think deep thoughts, and with no more brains than you have. Pay no attention to that man. Anybody can have a brain.
You're a very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Just a very bad wizard.